Hi tribes, hope you're having an amazing week. So we've just finished our Rooted series and I mean maybe should be given, but I found it personally incredibly challenging. Just as we get to conversations tonight, I want to really remind us of why it's really important for us to become more like Jesus. We live in an incredibly religious culture here in Northern Ireland. Yes, it's the 21st century. Yes, people talk lots about post-Christendom, but the reality is we live in a religious culture here in Northern Ireland. And one of the things that's really important that we guard against is that our pursuit of Christ-likeness doesn't become a pursuit of Christian piety or just trying to do better or be more good. But actually, God is doing something in the city and in our world, and He invites us to be a part of that, to release His hope and His life wherever we go. But on Sunday past I talked about we can't release what we don't have, and so the question for all of us is, how do we become more like Jesus so that we can do more like Jesus, which is really what this whole thing is all about. And we were reflecting on Sunday about this idea that there is no formation without repetition. I wonder, what are the patterns and habits that you repeat in your life? It's a great place to start. Generally, spend some time, maybe pause the video, spend some time in your tribes talking about what are the patterns or habits currently that are repeating in your life. For some of you that might be, we do family dinner at 6 o'clock. For some of you, you might want to confess that your day starts with this and ends with this. And whilst I'm having a wee bit of fun there, it's a really good question for you to dive into tonight. If your day begins with social media and ends with social media, what do you think that's forming in you? What is the repetition of that forming in you? Maybe you should talk about that. Spend some time thinking about that. But generally, what are the habits or patterns that are in your life, weekly rhythms, just generally? Have a chat about that. Wonderful. And what we'd love you to talk about is what repeatable patterns are in your life that are helping form you into the way of Jesus, the way of the kingdom. What's going on in your life? I had a brilliant conversation with a young man in our community on Sunday morning where he just said, I've surrendered my life to Jesus, but I don't know how to become more like Jesus. And my simple question right back was, well, what patterns are you repeating? And the Rooted app, so helpful. If you're not using it, maybe use something else. But we have the cave, the pattern of private devotion to God. We have the road, a moment of intentional interruption where we remind ourselves that we are part of this story and pray into that. The table, the relational space where we share our lives with others, and the fire, the lordship space where we reflect again at the end of our day on who's in charge of my life. Spend some time talking about what patterns are working for you, what patterns could you start. And my one kind of piece of advice for those of you that are maybe beginning or need some help in this is, don't try and climb Mount Everest in a day. Don't decide, right, I'm going to do an hour in the cave in the morning. Maybe just do 15 minutes. Don't think maybe right this week I'm going to share my faith with 100 people. Maybe just look for somebody that you can be praying for and look for opportunities to bless them and have open conversations with them. Maybe not rearrange your entire life to fill it with social diary stuff so that you can share your life, but maybe just be more intentional with the space you have with your friends to go that little bit deeper. And maybe it's not a moment of sell your house and move to the third world, but actually just before you go to sleep, asking God to speak to you about who's really in charge of your life. Don't forget, we'd love you to pray with and for each other, and we're excited to see you this week. Also, Jericho is happening this Sunday night, and we hope to see you there. Sunday morning 10:30, new series, and Sunday night at Jericho. Have an amazing week.